Have you ever imagined what the ocean would have looked like millions of years ago? The Mesozoic era, which spanned from 252 to 66 million years ago, was a time when the seas were teeming with life. Among the many marine creatures that inhabited these ancient oceans were the Plesiosaurs, a group of marine reptiles that captured the imagination of scientists and the public alike. Plesiosaurs were not dinosaurs, but rather a separate group of reptiles known as Ceratosaurus. They first appeared in the latest Triassic Period, possibly in the Ratian stage about 203 million years ago, and became especially common during the Jurassic Period. You all might be thinking, what makes them so unique? So let me tell you about their physical appearance. They were not your average sea creatures. In fact, they were some of the largest marine predators ever to exist on this planet. They varied in size, with some measuring as little as 1.5 meters in length, while others reached an astonishing 15 meters. These massive creatures were at the top of the food chain and shared their position with other giants like Ichthyosaurus, mosasaurids, sharks, and toothed whales. But wait, it gets even more impressive. Some plesiosaurid remains have been found to be highly reconstructed and fragmentary, such as the set of lower jaws preserved in the Oxford University Museum, which were referable to Plesiosaurus rozicus. These jaws measured a whopping 2.875 meters in length, indicating that the animal may have been as long as 17 meters. However, there are debates about their true size, and some experts estimate a more likely length of 12.7 meters. One example of an enormous plesiosaur is MCZ 1285, a specimen currently referable as Kronosaurus queenslandicus, which was discovered in the early Cretaceous of Australia. It was estimated to have had a skull length of 2.21 to 2.85 meters, which is pretty impressive for an animal that lived more than 66 million years ago. These marine reptiles had a unique appearance, with their broad, flat bodies and short tails. Unlike other aquatic animals, it used all four of their limbs to propel themselves through the water, making their flippers an essential part of their anatomy. To accommodate their powerful flippers, they had undergone significant changes in their skeletal structure. Their shoulder, girdle, and pelvis had been modified to develop into broad bone plates, providing a surface for large muscle groups that could pull the limbs downwards. The forelimbs and hind limbs were about as long as the trunk and were very large, resembling each other strongly. They also had large, obliquely pointed eye sockets and nostrils located close together, with the anteriorly placed internal nostrils having palatal grooves to channel water. Their teeth varied greatly in form and number, with some having hundreds of needle-like teeth while others had large canonical teeth with a round or oval cross-section. No doubt that they were a marvel of evolution, adapted perfectly to life in the ocean. It may look like gentle giants, but don't be fooled. These ancient creatures were fierce predators with a taste for meat. Whether you're talking about the group with long necks and small heads, or the group with short necks and massive heads, all of them were carnivores through and through. The long-necked Plesiosaurus were masters of stealth, relying on ambush tactics to take down their prey. Their menu consisted of both hard and soft-bodied cephalopods, and their specialized jaws were designed to chomp through even the toughest shells. Meanwhile, the short-necked plesiosaurs were the apex predators of their habitat, thanks to their lightning-fast swimming speeds and sharp teeth. Their diet was mostly soft-bodied prey, especially fish, and they weren't afraid to take on larger predators when the opportunity arose. They were truly the lords of the ancient oceans. These creatures could be found all around the world, from the depths of the seas to freshwater habitats. Some experts even believe that some species of them may have ventured onto land occasionally, like modern turtles, to lay their eggs. Despite their massive size, they didn't have many natural enemies. They were at the top of the food chain in their habitats, with their size and power making them formidable predators. The abundance of prey allowed them to thrive for millions of years. However, that doesn't mean that they were completely invulnerable. They shared their habitats with other fearsome predators like mosasaurs and ichthyosaurs. These creatures would have been competing for the same prey, and there may have been some conflict between them. When it comes to the speed of these prehistoric sea creatures, it's a tricky subject. Determining the maximum speed of extinct animals is no easy feat, especially in the case of plesiosaurs, where there is still no agreement on their flipper, stroke, and gait. With no exact calculations of their Reynolds number, it seems almost impossible to get a precise figure. Fossil evidence does suggest that the skin of it was relatively smooth, which may have reduced form drag. Small wrinkles in the skin could have also prevented separation of the laminar flow, thereby reducing skin friction. One study published in 1988 by Judy Massare attempted to calculate the drag of a simplified model of the body and the sustainable level of energy output by the muscles. Assuming a low hydrodynamic efficiency of 0.65, Massare's model suggested that if they were warm-blooded, they would have had cruised at a speed of around 14 kilometers per hour, considerably faster than extant dolphins and whales. However, in 2002, Ryosuke Motani pointed out flaws in Massare's formula, resulting in a much lower estimate of around 1.8 to 5.4 kilometers per hour for plesiosaurs. About the formation of their similar ones, their reproduction has been a topic of debate among scientists for a long time. While it was initially thought that smaller plesiosaurs may have laid eggs on beaches like turtles, it was soon hypothesized that they were viviparous. That means they produced live babies from their bodies rather than eggs. This is because their strong limbs lacked functional elbow or knee joints, making it difficult for them to crawl up on beaches to lay eggs. Moreover, the largest plesiosaurs were as big as whales, so it was hard to imagine how they could have survived beaching. However, the discovery of Ichthyosaurus embryos, which showed that at least one group of marine reptiles had been born young, gave scientists reason to believe that they might have been viviparous too. In 1887, Harry Govier-Seeley reported having acquired a nodule with 4 to 8 tiny skeletons, which he claimed were plesiosaur embryos. However, in 1982, it was revealed that he had been deceived by a doctored fossil of a nest of crayfish. It wasn't until 1987 when an actual plesiosaur specimen was found that proved that they gave birth to live young. The fossil of a pregnant Polycotinus lepidinus showed that these animals gave birth to a single large juvenile and probably invested parental care in their offspring, similar to modern whales. The young was 1.5 meters long, which was large compared to its mother of 5 meters in length, indicating a case strategy in reproduction. However, little is known about growth rates or possible sexual dimorphism. In the 1990s, an astounding 17 new plesiosaurs were discovered, and since then, 3 to 4 new ones have been named each year. But it's not just the number of discoveries that's exciting, it's also the locations where they're being found. Traditional sites in England and Germany are still productive, but field research in new areas like New Zealand, Argentina, Chile, Norway, Japan, China, and Morocco has led to new finds. Some of the recent discoveries are truly remarkable, like the monster of Aramberry, originally thought to be a dinosaur but actually a very large plesiosaur, possibly up to 15 meters in length. And in 2004, a fisherman found a completely intact juvenile plesiosaur in Somerset, UK, dating back 180 million years and measuring 1.5 meters in length, possibly related to Dromaeosaurus. And with each new find, our understanding of these fascinating creatures grows, giving rise to new questions and theories. Who knows what secrets the oceans still hold, waiting to be discovered? They were truly fascinating creatures, but as with all things, their time on Earth eventually came to an end. These majestic beasts were unfortunately not immune to the forces of extinction that have claimed so many other species throughout the history of life on Earth. This extinction event occurred during the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event, about 66 million years ago, which wiped out a majority of the species on the planet, including the dinosaurs. But what caused this mass extinction? One theory is that it was caused by a massive meteorite with a diameter of 10 kilometers that struck down on the ocean off of Mexico. The impact would have triggered an enormous earthquake, causing tsunamis that would have devastated coastal regions and ejected dust and debris into the atmosphere, blocking out sunlight and causing a global cooling effect. Interestingly, recent research by Dr. Tanja Wintrich's team at the University of Bonn in Germany has found evidence that plesiosaurs were able to survive the fourth mass extinction, which occurred during the late Triassic Period. They discovered fossils of a rather young plesiosaur with a length of 2.4 meters, and determined that during the Triassic era, they had already evolved to a state identical to that of the Jurassic era. This discovery sheds light on the adaptability and resilience of these fascinating creatures. In children's books and educational materials often depicted as friendly and playful creatures, One popular example is the Magic School Bus series, in which the students travel back in time and encounter a plesiosaur named Elsie, who helps them learn about prehistoric sea creatures. One of the most famous depictions of it can be found in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's novel, The Lost World. In the book, a group of explorers discovers a hidden plateau in South America, where dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures still roam. Among the creatures they encounter are plesiosaurs, which are depicted as ferocious beasts that attack the explorers' raft. This portrayal cemented the idea of them as dangerous and aggressive creatures in popular culture. In more recent years, they have made appearances in popular media such as TV show Primeval, which follows a group of scientists who investigate anomalies in time. They appear as creatures from a different era that are brought into the present day through an anomaly. And if you're into cool stuff like this, make sure to click the like and subscribe buttons below. By learning about plesiosaurs and other prehistoric animals, we get a better idea of just how diverse and complicated life on Earth really is. And if you're curious about other prehistoric animals and want to know more about them, then you should definitely click the video on your screen right now. We'll tell you everything you need to know about this fascinating topic and help you deepen your understanding of these incredible creatures.